What's up guys, Sean here, and today we're going to talk about Tucker Carlson fighting back against Media Matters. Recently, Media Matters, coordinating with a bunch of left-wing media outlets, released a bunch of old clips of Tucker Carlson doing radio show appearances, where he said some things that out of context sound really questionable, but in context were clearly jokes made at the time on comedy radio shows that are very similar to the Howard Stern radio show. Some of these clips are really old. I saw one of them that dates back to 2005, which is 14 years ago. But nonetheless, Media Matters and their left-wing activists in the media are seeking to use this to force Tucker Carlson off the air. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the organization Media Matters, essentially think of them as social justice warriors before that term ever existed. They are a radical left-wing authoritarian propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, and their entire purpose when they were initially started was to stop Fox News, deplatform their hosts, and they have continued that from their inception till this very day. Their whole shtick is that if you're on the right, you have no right to free speech. You need to be shut down, deplatformed. And the way that they do it is they cut clips out of context, they go back in time, dig up old stuff, and they use that to astroturf a campaign to get your advertisers to pull out so that conservatives cannot financially sustain themselves. They're not interested in debate, they don't believe in debate, they can't win a debate. Their goal is censorship. Media Matters is a censorship organization. It is important to recognize that these people are clearly 100% without a shadow of a doubt activists who clearly have way too much time on their hands. Some of these clips are 14 years old. Tucker Carlson has been on the air consistently forever. So that means that there are dedicated staffers looking into all of his old interviews to dig up these quotes, mash them together, and present them as if that's what he stands for today. These are short, sometimes less than a minute long clips from very few interviews among the thousands of interviews that Tucker Carlson has done over that period of time, not to mention shows and not to mention other TV appearances. And for those of you ready to declare me a hypocrite in the comments down below, remember, when the Justice Democrats staged a coup against Cenk Uygur, who I've made a number of videos criticizing, I actually defended him. Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas, people! It's Christmas time, so I'm wearing a Santa hat so that this video can be dated if you watch this a few months later. So for those of you who don't know, recently some right-wing media outlets have unearthed some blog posts about Cenk Uygur, and it paints him as a sexist, supposedly it paints him as a racist, although I haven't seen a lot of that information if I'm being honest. And basically, it's a big smear campaign and like this phony moral outrage, but it's against Cenk Uygur. So a lot of people who are normally opposed to this kind of thing have been jumping on the hate bandwagon. I try and put myself in his shoes or put somebody that I like in his shoes. And if somebody that I like or you liked wrote this word for word 18 years ago, you would probably say it's fine, it's a joke. Because I didn't think it was right to use his old blog posts to take power from him. And I knew that the people who dig up this stuff are far, far worse than the people who actually wrote it. But the Justice Democrats asked him to resign from the Justice Democrats. And that's what I really want to talk about, because essentially what's happening here is the Justice Democrats are moving towards a purely SJW direction and away from the split direction that they were kind of founded on. I didn't think it was right for them to force Cenk out due to the fact that he wrote some blog posts about how he was desperately trying to meet women and couldn't back in the day. I really think what's happening here is that people who don't like Cenk are using this to attack Cenk, but they're not really applying a consistent standard. Like, believe me, I've made like 3 or 4 videos on the Young Turks. They put out a lot of garbage content that needs to be criticized. But digging up stuff from when he's like 18 years old, or taking videos that are like 2 to 3 years old out of context to get him and prove that he's not liberal enough seems really counterproductive, and it's something that I'm not interested in. So don't come at me with this Tucker Carlson's obvious jokes on shock jock radio shows known for jokes are somehow beyond the pale. Now that we got the backstory out of the way, I want to talk about the real reason I wanted to make this video. And that is, Tucker Carlson handled this situation absolutely perfectly. And that's because he followed what I am going to dub the PewDiePie way to respond to controversy. Which, by the way, go subscribe to PewDiePie at the end of this video. He is desperately trying to fight off T-Series, and we can't let the #1 crown on YouTube fall to a nameless faceless, one-letter using corporation. Alright, the PewDiePie method for addressing controversy, rule number 1. Don't go on somebody else's turf. Keep the home field advantage. One of the best things that Tucker Carlson did was say that he wasn't going to address this controversy on Twitter or with any left-wing media outlets. He has his own show, his own platform, and that's where he decided to address it, and you should always do that. The first thing you need to realize is that when you're dealing with the outrage mob, you are not dealing with honest actors. If they wanted to know what you thought about a particular issue or who you were as a person, they would ask you. But instead, they dug up old clips because they are trying to present a narrative about who you are to get you thrown off the air. Don't engage with them on their terms. That was an excellent move on Tucker Carlson's part.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. As anyone who's ever been caught in its gears can tell you, the great American outrage machine is a remarkable thing. One day you're having dinner with your family, imagining everything is fine. The next, your phone is exploding with calls from reporters. They read you snippets from a press release written by Democratic Party operatives. They demand to know how you could possibly have said something so awful and offensive. Do you have a statement on how immoral you are? There's really not that much you can do to respond. It's pointless to try to explain how the words were spoken in jest or taken out of context, or in any case bear no resemblance to what you actually think or would want for the country.
Number 2, do not apologize unless you feel you did something wrong. And if you do apologize, it is extra important to not apologize to the mob. Don't apologize to anybody who is pretending to be offended on behalf of anybody else. The outrage mob smells weakness. The whole point of you apologizing, as Tucker Carlson pointed out in his monologue, is just so they can retread the allegations, grade your apology, and shame you further. You can't give in to that.
None of that matters. Nobody cares. You know the role you're required to play. You are a sinner begging the forgiveness of Twitter. So you issue a statement of deep contrition. You apologize profusely for your transgressions. You promise to be a better person going forward. With the guidance of your contrition consultants, you send money to whatever organization claims to represent the people you supposedly offended. Then you sit back and brace for a wave of stories about your apology, all of which are simply pretexts for attacking you again.
And in the third step with dealing with this phony kind of controversy is to call out the controversy. Call out the fact that you are not dealing with honest actors. Call out the fact that these people are not offended, and call out the fact that these people have a goal, and that goal is to get you off your network.
In the end, you get fired. You lose your job. Nobody defends you. Your neighbors avert their gaze as you pull into the driveway. You are ruined. And yet, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how despised and humiliated you may be, there is one thing you can never do, one thing that is absolutely not allowed. You can never acknowledge the comic absurdity of the whole thing. You can never laugh in the face of the mob.
Their goal is not to create a new, better political discourse. Their goal is to destroy that discourse.
Always pretend that the people yelling at you are somehow your moral superiors. You have to assume that what they say they're mad about is what they're actually mad about. You have to take them at face value. You must pretend this is a debate about virtue and not about power. That your critics are arguing from principle and not from partisanship. No matter what they take from you in the end, you must continue to pretend that these things are true. You are bad, they are good, the system is on the level.
You need to point out that if the outrage mob didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all.
This is a system built on deceit and enforced silence. Hypocrisy is its hallmark. Yet in Washington, it's considered rude to ask questions about how exactly it works. Why are the people who consider Bill Clinton a hero lecturing me about sexism?
You know that old adage, don't feed the trolls? Well, that applies here too. These people are not going to be happy with you apologizing. They want you off the air, and they want your ability to earn income taken away from you.
But what if we stopped pretending for a minute? What if we acknowledged what's actually going on? One side is deadly serious. They believe that politics is war. They're not interested in abstractions or principles, rules or traditions. They seek power, and they plan to win it, whatever it takes.
And more importantly, their goal is to send a message to their other would-be ideological opponents that they need to shut up because dissent will not be tolerated by them. If they can destroy Tucker Carlson, they can destroy you.
If that includes getting you fired or silencing you or threatening your family at home or throwing you in prison, okay. They know what their goal is. If you're in the way, they will crush you.
I'm going to link their video in the description box below if you want to check it out. Maybe you disagree, leave me a comment down below, but I think Tucker Carlson handled this perfectly. Anyway, that's all I really have for you guys today. If you like this video, then please show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. Follow me on my social media, including Twitter. If you want to support me through one-time donation, you can do so via PayPal, monthly through Patreon and Subscribestar. This has been me talking about Tucker Carlson taking on the mob. Till next time.